Atheism is just another religion. I bet you've never heard that one before. Materialism is the atheistic worldview. The Big Bang and evolution is atheism's creation story. Harris, Hitchens, Dawkins and Dennett are atheism's prophets, and Darwin is the atheist messiah. Oh, and atheists have faith that there isn't a god too. But do they? Really? Is atheism really a religion? In response to the assertion that atheism is a religion, many atheists reply with either Bill Maher's famous retort that atheism is a religion like abstinence is a sex position, or the more classical and potentially less offensive reply that atheism is a religion like not collecting stamps is a hobby. And both of these replies hit back hard, often putting an end to the argument then and there. No, I'm kidding, of course. The argument doesn't end there. Ever. The conversation may then go in countless directions, but if you're conversing with an educated apologist, he or she will generally reply with a statement along the lines of, non-stamp collectors don't go around mocking stamp collectors, writing books, or creating websites dedicated to non-stamp collecting. Which, to be fair, isn't a terrible point. However, as the Skeptico blog post titled, "Atheism is not a religion," wonderfully articulates, if stamp collectors demanded that people who don't collect stamps obey their stamp collecting rules, started wars with groups who collected slightly different types of stamps, denied non-stamp collectors rights or discriminated against them, bullied them in school, claimed you had to collect stamps to be a suitable person to run for public office, tried to get stamp collecting taught in schools as science in opposition to real science, demanded that people be killed for printing cartoons that made fun of stamp collectors, claimed that non-stamp collectors lacked moral judgment, and ostracised non-stamp collectors simply because they don't collect stamps, then non-stamp collectors would indeed repudiate such nonsense by creating a movement, a voice, that has to unite under the name of non-stamp collectors because that is the only thing they all share in common. What's more is that eventually the non-stamp collectors would have to form active organisations to represent them and oppose such oppression, in much the same way that atheists have had to form organisations such as the American Atheists and the British Humanist Association, which are just that, organisations and associations, not religions. But I am getting way ahead of myself. To really assess whether or not atheism is a religion, we first need to clearly define what religion is, and in doing this, emphasise what all religions have in common. From there, we'll be able to clearly define what atheism is, and see if it too possesses these commonalities. The problem, however, is that there are literally thousands of definitions of the word religion. Many people define it to be a belief in a god or a group of gods, which suits theistic religions just fine because that's actually the definition of theism, not religion. But it fails to incorporate religions that don't believe in a god, such as some sects of Buddhism. While on the other hand, many define religion to be a pursuit or interest followed with great devotion, which does indeed incorporate all theistic and non-theistic religions. But it's such a vague definition that it also incorporates organisations, enterprises, associations, charities, sports, and virtually anything that can be considered to be a hobby or obsessed over, making it a meaningless definition. In fact, in realisation of how difficult religion is to define, Hent de Vries, in his collection of essays titled Religion Beyond a Concept, ended up settling with the definition being a semantic black hole. And if I'm honest, I have to concur. However, there is indeed a definition that incorporates all of the major religions, and in doing so reveals the commonalities that they all have. The following definition incorporates Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Sikhism, and paganism. Religion is a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, especially when considered as the creation of a superhuman agency or agencies, usually involving devotional and ritual observances, and often containing a moral code governing the conduct of human affairs. And as for the commonalities that all of these major religions have, and more importantly, what organisations, enterprises, associations, charities, sports, and hobbies do not, they all prescribe a supernatural worldview, dictate humanity's ultimate role and purpose, have a creation story, prescribe rules and regulations, have sacred texts, objects and/or locations, have prophets, and require faith. So now that we have clearly defined what a religion is, and more importantly, emphasised what commonalities they all share, let's now define what atheism is and see if it too shares these commonalities. The word atheism is derived from ancient Greek, where the prefix a means without and theos means God. Hence, atheism literally means without God or godless. Or in other words, atheism is a single position held in regard to a single question. It's not even an ideology, let alone a religion, and we'll prove this in just a second. However, and this brings us comfortably to the heart of the confusion, because there are now many ideologies, organisations and associations which include atheism in their name, the word atheism can now be used to refer to the ideology of one or many of these specific groups, rather than to just the original use of the word. But alas, and to stay on track, the argument is that atheism is a religion, not that the many atheistic ideologies, organisations and associations are religions. And so before we delve further into the many atheistic groups, let's first prove that the only commonality that all atheists necessarily share is a lack of belief in deities. Now I would say let's start with the supernatural worldview, but atheists aren't characterised as having a supernatural worldview at all. Rather, they're characterised as having a materialistic worldview. So, don't all atheists have a materialistic worldview? The answer is no, they don't. There are thousands of spiritual groups that don't believe in a god or gods, including many sects of Buddhism that believe that phenomenon such as consciousness is the result of non-material and often supernatural forces, and hence, not all atheists share the same worldview. Okay, what about humanity's ultimate role and purpose? All atheists believe that humanity's ultimate purpose in life is to reproduce and to survive as a species, right? But again, no. To provide just one example, the majority of nihilists, people who believe that life is meaningless and pointless and would prefer for life to all go extinct, are actually atheist. Hence, not all atheists believe in the same purpose of life. What about a creation story? Don't all atheists believe in the Big Bang and evolution? Nope. While most atheists accept the evidence for the Big Bang and evolution, many don't. For example, there are many conspiracy theorists that don't believe in a god or gods, but are certain that humanity is the product of super-intelligent aliens, rather than the product of evolution by natural selection. Hence, not all atheists accept the Big Bang and evolution. What about rules and regulations? Don't all atheists believe in equal rights, euthanasia and abortion? Again, no. These subjects are heavily debated among atheists. For example, Matt Dillahunty and Christine Kruszelnicki are both atheist activists who happen to woefully disagree with one another on the subject of abortion. Okay, what about sacred texts, objects and/or locations? Don't all atheists venerate God is not great? Nope. In fact, many atheists dislike God is not great, and they dislike the atheist movement altogether, such as Noam Chomsky. But what about the atheist prophets? All atheists worship Hitchens, Harris, Dawkins and Dennett, don't they? Well, by extension of many atheists disliking the atheist movement as a whole, the answer is most certainly not. Furthermore, atheists who do appreciate these men, including myself, don't think of them as prophets, but rather as people who are championing a worthy cause. If Sam Harris is a prophet of atheism, then Woody Harrelson is a prophet of vegetarianism. And finally, we come to faith. All atheists have faith that there isn't a God, surely. But once again, no. Most atheists are agnostic, to varying degrees, and are simply not convinced that the claim of theism has met its burden of proof. If not being convinced of theism requires faith, then so does not being convinced of the Kraken's existence. But don't get me started on the definition of faith. Really, don't. Anyhow, as demonstrated, atheism really is a single position held in regard to a single question, and hence it's not even an ideology, let alone a religion. But now that we have clarified that atheism isn't a religion, the real question can be asked. Can the many atheistic groups and ideologies, such as humanism and secularism, be accurately called religions? After all, the likes of Catholicism and Shiaism are considered to be ideologies as well as religions, so why isn't this also the case for humanism and secularism? Well, just as all Christians are theists, but not all theists are Christians, the same can be said for ideologies and religions. While all religions are ideologies, not all ideologies are religions. Humanism and secularism are ideologies in the same way that vegetarianism and libertarianism are ideologies. They are a collection of ideas and values that form the basis of an economic and/or political theory and policy. And unlike religions, they don't require a belief in the supernatural, have a creation story, have prophets, or require faith. The only way one can categorize humanism and secularism as religions is to use a definition of religion that also categorizes other organizations, enterprises, associations, ideologies, and hobbies as a religion too. Hence, the many atheistic groups are also not religions. So, to recap, atheism is not a religion because it doesn't prescribe a worldview, it doesn't dictate humanity's ultimate role and purpose, it doesn't have a creation story, it doesn't prescribe rules and regulations, it doesn't have sacred texts, objects, and/or locations, it doesn't have prophets, and it doesn't require faith. As always, thank you kindly for the view. And as for last week's giveaway, the winner is Catherine Messiah. Congrats, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Please contact me on the back end of my channel and I'll be sure to send you your reward. Until next time, my fellow apes, remember to practice your atheistic religion. Worship God is not great, pray to Darwin, and remember to subscribe to your atheist preachers.